Hello, and welcome to the podcast There Are No Good Games, where we discuss our opinions on past, present, and future games, as well as a whole load of other filler to keep us sane while we wait for a good game to play. Let's begin. Hello, Ollie. It's been a while, or has it been a while? For the magic of editing, I don't think time is a factor,
2 weeks. 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
Yeah,
I don't know.
2 weeks.
Been busy.
It's been a while. As I will always ask, openly and poorly worded, what have you been up to recently, Ollie?
I've been working on Yes, Comrade, which I believe we announced on the last episode. I don't know because.
Yes, we did. We did announce on the last episode, I believe.
Okay, it's been so long. Okay, good. I'm just making sure because sometimes I forget what I've said on which episode.
I also find that as well. How are you find? Oh, sorry, go.
Well, I'm saying that. I've been working on that. Obviously, I've been editing the kind of devlogs for that. Working on the game. It's been quite busy. Yeah.
How have you found the game dev process? Like being like a solo developer, because you see a lot of developers and developing houses. There's like 30 to 40 people to bounce around ideas from. There's a break room. There's like a bunch of other stuff. How do you find being a solo developer from your house?
Yeah, it's good. Everyone agrees with me, so it's a pretty straightforward process. I think
that is good.
But I'm not a solo dev. I have my community of people following the game. They're part of the process as well. I like to think. And their feedback is just as important,
Yeah. And where do you think you sit on the spectrum of programmer, artist, designer? Where do you think your strength is? Like, it's kind of like mixed martial arts, right? To be
it's not
good.
Art. It's not artwork.
It's not artwork. Right now. Okay.
Not art. That's getting better though. I'm will talk about that in the latest episode of my devlog. But I'll talk more about the art. Because I didn't really talk about it in the first episode I released in Jan, but I definitely obviously am a programmer designer.
Okay, so you'd say you sit in like the programming bracket and then designing.
I think so. I think that would be the best explanation. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that gives you any like abilities or advantages over other people? Because I assume being a programmer by nature is it's a stronger idea, right? So you can kind of do that. It's a little bit easier, and you can actually make the game. Versus a lot of people who are not programmers probably struggle with that bit quite a bit.
Yeah, it's probably the best. I've got the best of everything, really. I mean, I watched this guy on Twitch. Mm-hmm. His name's Robaz. He's a fairly popular streamer. He's from Sweden, I think. And anyway, he's more of like he's a gameplay streamer, but he has like a Unity project he's working on, which is kind of like a itch.io cheap horror game. Like that's he's trying to make basically, but he literally says it. And he chat GPTs all the code. And last night, I watched him try to program a bin opening, of which he could have done with just a simple animation in Unity. But instead, he wasted probably half an hour trying to talk to ChatGPT, trying to convince it to give him the right code. And at that point, I knew that I was a real winner.
Well, I was going to say, I do feel like it's kind of like I'm going to use mixed martial arts here because I think it's a very good comparison. You do, if you're like a certain specialization, you do have other advantages over other people. So if you like a striker, someone who's like boxes, you've got a very good early game. If you're like a technical fighter who likes to do technical knockouts and kind of tapping, you have like a very strong ability. Like people can pick up boxing quite easily, kicking and all that sort of stuff. But the technical kind of like ground pins and kind of TKOs and stuff like that, I think it's like programming, right? You either have that ability or you don't, but the rest of the stuff you can kind of pick up over time.
Sure. Yeah. People are born programs.
Yeah. So what have you found? Have you found the idea kind of process? Because obviously when you're in like a big group and you're in a team, you get to talk to about people. You get to be like, hey, this is my idea. What do you think? How do you find that kind of idea? Do you find ideas ruminate and kind of get processed quicker as a game developer? Or do you think that it's a slower process because you have no one to bounce the ideas off?
Well, well, by nature, because I'm a solo developer, I'm inherently an agile developer, which
Oh,
is
okay.
good because I then conform to anything that a manager would tell me anyway. But obviously, I just prototype a lot of stuff, and if I think it's good, it stays in. Otherwise, maybe it needs to be refined for something else or shelved for something else. But yeah, I mean, the point of this game is to iterate fast and see what works, what doesn't work. That's why having people test the game who watch the videos, they can get access on Steam for it. So yeah, they give feedback, and then I go back and contemplate how important their feedback is, and then I make the change if necessary.
Okay. So if I wanted to get early access to Yes Comrade, the game you're working on at the moment, how could I get early access, or how could I improve my
You
odds of early access?
you can all you have to do is get on the Patreon.
Okay.
You can become a Patreon member for quite cheap, and that will guarantee you a alpha Steam key,
Ooh.
which will
Okay.
last all the way till the game's actually released officially on Steam.
Perfect. Okay. Interesting. Well, I'm already a Patreon member.
Yeah, good. I mean, you kind of knew the answer to your question, but I appreciate your help there with the marketing. That was
Yeah,
good. That was
you're
good.
welcome. No, but I think it's important. Like, solo game dev it's a hard process. Most solo stuff is a hard process because you have to think of the idea yourself. You have to execute it end to end and all that sort of stuff. So anything I can do to help. And I think when games are good, like Yes Comrade, they do need to be shouted about like a little bit more often, especially if it's like a solo developer or even like a friend. If your friend wants to start up a business and stuff like that, you should go buy a product. You shouldn't ask for friend rates. You should just support it like you would any other business member, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the game did spend a year in pre-production, so it had a lot of time to bounce ideas off people before I actually started work on it. But yeah, it's actually a real thing. It plays, it's multiplayer, it ticks all the boxes so far. So yeah, we're in February now. I think still with this release of this episode, but by the time the third devlog comes out, there's going to be some huge changes to like the map, the tower, the main kind of things of the game. So I'm very excited to see that because it will formulate a core part of the experience.
Yeah. And this is a question for everyone at home listening. If you wanted to get into game dev, what would you recommend as like the pathway to get into it?
Oh, this is a question for me.
Yes.
You're asking
Well, I'm not asking myself. I don't kind of fit that criteria.
I was slightly confused by what you were saying, but now I get what you're saying. How would you get it? You need to firstly download a game engine of choice.
Okay.
I would recommend either Unity or Godot. If you're just starting out and never done anything before, I wouldn't start with Unreal Engine, which is a big mistake from quite a lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah, find some tutorials online, but follow the tutorial properly. Don't go off and do anything straight away. It never works out. I see it time and time again. So yeah, just go start making stuff, and then once you get a hang of the basics, you've done some of the tutorials in full, then you can start making your own changes to those things you've done, designing your own stuff, and it will hopefully become natural over time. But it's not something you can learn overnight. You have to have patience, and you have to have the time to do it. Otherwise it's not really something you can do.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
So I think we're in that classic non-holiday drought for video games at the moment. The only game I can actually see which has come out recently, which I think is moderately interesting, is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I've seen.
You're not a fan of Avowed?
Avowed. I get very worried when I see those sorts of games. It looks like it could be a very fun game to play, but I don't know if it's going to be my cup of tea. Like, it looks very mage orientated, which isn't really how I like to play games. I'd rather be doing something like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which lets you go be a rogue or a ranger or like a swordsman. Like, that's more my thing holistically.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched too much of Avowed. I literally watched probably about 10 minutes, and then I got bored and then went to go to something. But yeah, I mean, Kingdom Come Deliverance obviously was a game that people were waiting for. I think mostly it's met the expectations, but they still use their save system, which people don't like. So that's been kind of the main fault with it, but it's extremely well optimized, especially for I think what is a Crytek engine game.
Hmm.
So they've done really well with that, and yeah, they just kind of built upon the first one. So I mean, what could have gone wrong? No massive risks,
Mm.
but yeah, they seem to have captivated people properly.
Well, I completely agree. Like, I think the adverts are quite funny. It was like a POV, kind of like drinking, fighting, doing what you want to do, getting kicked out of areas, which is cool.
Mm,
They've also done a couple of smart things from what I've heard, which is like they retell you the story as you're playing it. So if you haven't played the first one, you still can play the game,
right. Yeah.
which I think is a great idea because realistically, with stuff like not to the same concept as, but like Red Dead Redemption, you could play the first one, you could play the second one, almost like untapped from each other. But there are some games like God of War where you need to play the first one to understand the second one. There is no like catch up mechanics. I think Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has done it quite well, which is like you go off and do a quest, and it's like, oh, you're off to go beat this guy. You're like, oh yeah, this guy. And he's like, do you remember when he brutally murdered your dog? And you're like, oh yes, I remember when he brutally murdered my dog. He's like, yeah, let's screw him up. And you're like, okay, this makes more sense. Like that sort of storytelling, just to kind of bring the people back into it's very good. And also, like you said, it's been a while since the first one came out, so I think it's a great like storytelling mechanic or a gameplay feature to kind of re-immerse the player back into this world. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think yeah, I mean it looked good. I haven't played either game. I've seen first bits of the first one, and obviously I've now watched a nice healthy amount of the second one.
Okay.
But I feel like yeah, so it's not. I mean, the story's somewhat related, but
Yeah.
are you playing the same character or is it a different character?
Same character from what I've understood. So you still play
Okay.
as Henry, I think.
Yeah. You do. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
But I did quite like one of the reviews. One of the reviews was like very nostalgic. It hit a lot of like buttons for me, which was it's early 2000s. You come back home from school, you play the game, and you turn it on, and you're immersed in this world back from the start again. I was just like, okay, that reminds me of like Oblivion, Skyrim, and all that sort of stuff, which I think is quite cool. But yeah, no, I think there's a couple of like nice fish at the moment, but majoritively we are in a drought. I haven't really seen anything interesting. There seems to be like a lot of spin-off things, like Warframe 1999's come out. I don't know if that's like different or not. There's also been like some Metal Slug games. There's a lot of like voxel games and like movie industry games and all that sort of stuff, but nothing really jumps out to me. It all seems to be like expansions of DLC or like battle passes and stuff like that at the moment.
Well, I mean, people are just waiting for GTA 6, aren't they? Really? So
Yeah, people have had their kids ready in December, ready to get that maternity and paternity leave for September. You know?
I think it's going to be delayed still, but
You
I
think?
mean, we'll see. I mean, I can't. I mean, it's really odd the way they have waited so long to release like another trailer. It's well over a year ago now since the first trailer. They've done nothing in a year.
Do you
Yeah.
there are there pros to giving like false release dates? Do people like pre-purchase it and you hope that kind of carries you forward for a little bit longer, or
I don't even
what's
know if
the
I
strategy?
don't think there is pre-purchasing. There is no pre-purchasing.
Oh, okay, it's no pre-purchasing at all. No, I was just curious because I know some companies do. I'm trying to remember the game that it happened to recently. I know it happened with Dark Tide like 2-3 years ago, which was like they set a release date. They went, okay, this is the release date. A week out, they went, actually, we need to delay it by another 3 months, and then they delayed it by another 3 months again, and another 3 months. And I think they did that Space Marine 2. It was meant to come out in like December, but it came out in September instead.
I mean, Starfield did that and it was still shit. So, I mean, it doesn't always make a huge difference. So yeah, but I think it's dependent sometimes. It's you just gotta I guess hope that maybe it's not gonna get delayed. But in the end, I mean, it's just odd. I mean, the most recent thing I've seen, which is leaked, is that they've been in contact with people who work in games like Roblox and Fortnite.
Oh, okay.
The people who've done the custom content in those games and
okay.
and started talking to them about making custom content in GTA 6. So it's. I mean, I don't know if that fills me with great hope that they're basically going a metaverse route for GTA 6. It's an interesting one. I mean, sure, why not? But hopefully that doesn't detract from the main game.
Yeah, no, I agree. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of pitch it. I think with the RPG kind of flair that GTA 5 had previously, they're going to be hard pushed not to have that at launch. And also, I think that people have had an appetite for it for quite a while, and that's some of the issues with like releasing games with such a delay. People have like such high hopes and standards for a game, and someone's very hard for it to hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is one of those games where there is so much hype around it, but like it will always sell.
Yeah, you know, exactly.
It's I guess we'll just have to see if it's worth the wait in the end.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
But until then, there's nothing to play. So yeah.
Ollie, you enjoy fantasy games.
How would you define a fantasy game?
Wizards, dragons, and all that sort of stuff. Like,
that's not wild. Okay, yeah, sure, yeah, we'll go with that type
what
of
were
fantasy.
what were you defining as
don't
fantasy?
Don't worry about it. Just go with what you were talking
Was that
about.
like after dark fantasy? That's fine then.
No, don't worry about it. It's still on Steam, so it must be fine.
Okay. So one of the things I was reading about, so I was doing some research and I was doing some reading, and I was quite interested about magic systems. Are you aware of this concept at all, or have you heard about it at all? Like soft magic, hard magic?
I've not heard of those two things.
Okay. Okay. So this is a concept or an idea which I think is really interesting. And I think games could, maybe not all games, but a lot of games seem to really not do this properly. Some of them do, which is quite interesting. So the concept of a magic system, they have two different ideas. So the first one is a soft magic system. So imagine like Harry Potter almost to a degree, and then maybe, I don't know, Elder Scrolls or Oblivion and stuff like that. So it's like abstract powers that are very like vague and kind of nondescript. So it could be like you could be a cleric and you could use like divine intervention, and divine intervention is just like your god assists you or does something. Or if you cast fireball, you could like make a fireball, fire it out, but you could also hold your hands in the air longer and still cast fireball, but make it like a 40-foot meteor-sized fireball and then throw it into something. That's classified as soft magic systems. Then you've got hard magic systems, which I quite find interesting, which is it's almost like putting together code or putting together like reagents, saying them in a certain phrasing, and then you can like tweak the spell. So if you cast fireball, you move your hands in a certain direction, you draw a spell in your spell book, you do like the incantation at the same time, and then you cast the spell. But then you can add things on top of it and give it different effects and stuff like that. Like these are the two ideas of like soft magic, which is very like nondescript and vague, and then hard magic, which is like specific spells, reagents, and casting routines, which I think is quite cool.
Right. So, okay. So let's go with like Skyrim then.
Yep.
Where would you place that?
So Skyrim, I'd probably say most of it would sit in the soft magic system because it doesn't really have any rules to it. You can cast stuff. You don't need specific bits to it, and you can kind of run around and do stuff. So a prime example is Gandalf would be a soft magic user because he kind of waves around his staff and does things, but he does force, but also light, but also other things, but he doesn't really change anything. He doesn't cast any spells and all that sort of stuff. Harry Potter would be another one. There's spells around, but you can also create them yourself, but all you need to do is like flick your wand and then say the spell at the same time.
Okay. So if you needed like a reagent to cast the spell, that puts it in hard magic.
It'd be towards the harder version of magic systems, yes. So
what is so that's going towards the harder, but what actually would knock it over the line to just be labeled as a hard magic system?
So I think from what I've understood from like hard magic systems is there's a counter for it, or like you can kind of, so D&D is a prime example of a hard magic system. So it says, if you do these reagents and you use like a verbal, semantic, and material good, you can cast a spell, it will do this, and this is the output of it. That would define it as a hard magic system. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I get it. I think I get
Like
it.
some of the World of Warcraft spells as well, right? So Featherfall. If you have a feather and you jump off a thing, you will slow your speed down and you'll be able to land. And like it gives you exactly what it's meant to do. It's not like general or vague. It's not like it could be misconstrued. It's yeah, it's like non-plot armor magic. It's like I said, it's like coding. If you don't code it properly, you're gonna break it and you're not gonna be able to cast it. But if you know exactly what you're doing and you understand the intricacies of how it works, you can then adapt it and make it work.
Okay. Okay. Which do you prefer?
I think holistically, for me personally, I really enjoy the idea of hard magic systems because if you can understand what you're doing and understand how it's put together, you can tweak it, you can make amends to it, you can like amplify it, you can reduce it, and you can also like counter it. I think that's a really cool idea conceptually. I've been watching. I finished watching. I think it's Freyrin's Journey's End, which is a
Mm-hmm.
show that uses hard magic systems quite a bit. And they almost like have to learn the spell itself and then tweak it, and it's almost like a spell book. It's really really cool.
I see. Okay. Interesting. So, would you? So, if you saw a game that used both in some way, would you say that it's not well designed, or that they haven't like? Should a game be both, or should it only
So
be one or the other?
I think a game should fit one or the other, right? So everything has its own idea in place, right? So you could have. I think it depends what type of game you're building. If you're building like an action adventure game to a mass audience, soft magic system is perfect. You point a spell, you go blah, and it fires it in multiple different colors. Like Harry Potter could do that, and it's very happy. You understand it, and it works. But I think if you want something more grounded, and you almost want to try and like get the edge on someone, and kind of like develop your understanding or like specialize a character to you, hard magic would be cooler. I would love to see a hard magic system in like an MMO game. I know it's gonna be very hard A to develop, B make it work, and then C try and put all the components together. But I think if you could do that, it'd almost bring it up a level in terms of complexity and depth of gameplay. Right? It's kind of like a sword play. So if I walk up to you and hit you with a sword, great. But if I go up to you and you're wearing plate armor and I hit you with a sword, there's a high chance of parrying, there's a high chance of deflex, it does its damage. That's a really cool concept. But if I take out a warhammer and hit you with your plate armor, it's going to impact and it's going to crush in and do that sort of damage. Like that's the way I'd probably describe like hard and soft magic. But if they did that for a fantasy MMO, I think that'd be really cool.
It does sound quite difficult to implement.
No, I agree. It's like your classic rock, paper, scissors, add a couple of other different elements to it and go for it. But if you keep it basic and vague, it can still work as a game. It just won't be as like depth. Like I would understand them doing like a hard magic system for like a mage game or like I don't know, a fantasy setting or something like that. But I think that would be kind of cool and kind of bring up the next level of gameplay, right?
Right. Yeah. No. I see. I see. Yeah. It just it sounds like a very hard thing to design properly, and obviously has the additional thing. Then if you don't do it fully or you don't do it correctly, then it will be worse off than just sticking to soft magic in the first place.
Yeah, agreed.
So Tristan, I was thinking recently
Okay.
about the concept of that art imitates life.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the idea that life imitates art? What are your thoughts on this?
Life imitates art. Okay. So in this scenario, you're saying something like, I'm trying to think of an example here. Okay, so you got like satire and stuff like that coming out of real life. So that makes sense. I can understand that. But you're saying people are imitating art now.
Instead of the other way around.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. I mean, I think that's a realistic thing, right? I think if you look at most sci-fi books, novels, and all that sort of stuff, it has gotten to that point, right? So you've got 2001: A Space Odyssey, you've got HAL that tries to kill everyone, and now you've got cars that can now work out if it's better to save the driver or the 20 kids in front of it. You've got AIs that can now speak to each other and basically decide what they want to do very quickly. I'm not surprised by that concept or idea, but I can see where you're coming from with it.
Yeah, because I think like originally, you know, like the idea that art and is obviously a type of culture, and obviously it imitates real life in order to make it understandable. Okay, 'cause people, you know, they make stuff based on their own kind of history, memories, that kind of stuff. But obviously now that art is now such a big deal. I talk about art in the sense that, you know, like films, movies. It doesn't books. It doesn't have to be like an artwork, right?
Yeah.
But basically, what I'm saying is that people now base a lot of their personality and maybe even like humor off what they see in modern day art.
Okay. Do you have any examples out of curiosity?
I mean, you mentioned satire earlier. Is that if you were watching something like what is acceptable comedy? Okay, this is an interesting topic because if you look at comedy that was done in comedy clubs or even just on TV, okay, we'll call it 15 years ago. All right. If you compare it to what would be allowed now on TV, BBC, for example, they're very different stuff. Like there's stuff that you would not be able to get away with. And so people would base their comedy in life, you know, in the workplace, let's say, or at school, based off what they saw in culture. So if they heard a joke on TV that was on the limit, well, that's the limit that they can now use in real life, right?
Yeah, no, I completely get where you're coming from. So, like, I think holistically as a society, we've become quite desensitized to a lot of jokes. In some cases, we become more sensitive to them, but it is part of like humor being subjective and stuff like that, right? Not everything has to be funny. Not everyone has to be enjoyed. If you tell a joke, I don't like it, it's fine. I don't like it. I'll move on from it. But I think holistically, our humor as a like the human race, our humor is completely changed. It's a lot darker. It's a lot more gritty. We make jokes about death more often. We make jokes about like a lot of different topics that I don't think are acceptable 20, 30 years ago, right?
Right. Yeah. But that's normal. I'm sure. Well, actually, probably, I bet that didn't probably happen 15 years ago where, well, no, that is kind of true. I mean, there's stuff like in the 80s and 90s that by the 2000s were out of fashion and people knew they couldn't say or do anymore, right?
Yeah, no, agreed.
But especially on like TV and stuff, I would just like the example like minstrels on TVs and stuff and the portrayal of people of color, like obviously that's like massively changed in the early 2000s. But I think overall, people take what they see in media and art and then imitate it because that's what they think is acceptable. So even then now, I mean, is posting on TikTok an art?
I think it's a form of like communication and a form of art, but I get what you mean.
No, people make stuff on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
So if they post it on there and they make it, they're creators and they do humor, let's say, or stuff, then even just making normal videos, you know, then people imitate that. And so that surely makes it a type of art.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And like, I think when you're talking about life imitating art, like look at cyberware. Like cyberware is such like it's a Blade Runner, it's a cyberpunk theme kind of idea. And people now wear that sort of stuff. Like anime concepts and cosplays are so popular and common now. They're almost like a form of clothing.
Yeah, but no one is wearing an anime get-up on the street. I don't know where you're going, but I've never seen that.
But like I think people would wear clothing that has elements from anime on it or elements from it. Like trying to think, like a lot of people wear. Prime example here. Look at the Peaky Blinders stuff, right? people were so obsessed with that art that people started dressing like Peaky Blinders. They started wearing the hats. They started getting the haircuts, speaking like Thomas Shelby and all that sort of stuff. It became like its own like subculture to the point where it's like very common now. Even like some people with anime stuff will cut their hair in a certain way to kind of mimic certain characters. They'll like wear certain clothing and makeup styles to kind of mimic it as well. I think it's becoming more and more common because it's like it's being individual but also trying to find your collective to sit with.
Right.
I think that's the idea of it. But yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because, you know, beforehand you could look at artwork or just media, I guess, from every decade, and you'd be able to use that to basically get a historical accurate kind of picture of what was going on. But now it doesn't matter because it seems that like media is ahead of life.
Yeah.
And so then people then copy it from what they see online and stuff like that because the media is just being shared so much faster.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that kind of one of the topics I was going to bring up after this, but we can dive into as well, is like, I think the way we consume media is so terrifying compared to where it was like 5-10 years ago. Because prime example, right? Look at
when we say we, because not everyone doom scrolls like you do.
Oh no, I meant like TV shows and stuff, right? So 10 years ago, Lost would have come out, and it would be on Sky. There'd be one episode every week.
Lost did not come out 10 years ago. I have some bad news to you. It came out a lot more than 10 years.
20 years ago. 20 years ago. Call it like 18 years ago, wherever it was.
Yeah.
It or like a TV show, right? Game of Thrones.
The first episode came out in 25th of May, 2025.
Wait, what? 2025?
Yeah, 2025, yeah.
Sure. Anyway, like look at Game of Thrones as a good example, right? When Game of Thrones first came out, it was on Sky every Sunday to watch. The later seasons and some of the other like some of the spin-off shows now do like binge dumping, right? So they complete the whole season, they finish it off, and they go, cool, I'll put all 20 episodes on Netflix or Crunchyroll or wherever it needs to go. And people just binge watch it. Like Breaking Bad was another one where it used to be like a episodic weekly show and then became like a fever dream of like binge dumping like seasons at a time.
No, they did it. They did it weekly. They
do it weekly into the end?
Yeah, they did it weekly to the end, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Like some shows now, like instead of releasing one episode a week, they go, we know exactly what our audience want. We're going to dump all 15 episodes at once and just go to it.
Yeah, but that's crap TV. I mean, I like all the things that I'm watching right now, I have to wait a week to watch. Like Apple TV don't do that at all. Like you're generally having to wait. Like so Silo, Severance, things like The Last of Us, like all that stuff that I actually watch is I've had to wait a week on week to actually watch now.
Okay.
And sure, there was stuff like, let's say, Squid Game season 2 came out all at once, but that's like a Netflix thing. And actually, you know, people don't have to watch it all in one go. You don't have to do that. Now, back in would have been 2015, maybe it was end of 2014 when House of Cards came out, season 2. I remember when that came out, and I literally season 2 came out, and I watched it that like within 24 hours. I watched every single episode. Okay, but that's because that's what I wanted to do, and I was at university. There was nothing else to do. So so I mean that's different, but. Yeah, you don't have to now go and sit and do that. Even something like, I guess, I mean, I don't really watch Drive to Survive anymore now because it's kind of rubbish compared to like actually just watching it, the race on race for F1. But if I did watch it, you know, I would. I don't think I ever binge watched that at all. I think I had to, like, I couldn't physically binge watch all of it. It wasn't really developed to binge watch. I felt.
No, I agree, but what I'm just saying is
definitely are though.
Yeah, like some shows are binge watchable, but I feel like the issue is now you have to keep up the pace with everyone else to a degree. So a good example was when Arcane came out, season 2. I was very methodical because I was like, okay, right, a new episode, like 3 episodes drop every week. I will watch an episode, wait a day, watch an episode, wait a day, watch an episode, wait a day, and that way I can just have like a steady pace of content and stuff like that. I can watch it, enjoy it, and kind of go from there. And then the issue is like you then get people online who are like, I can't believe that Jock shot Dan, and it'll be like the final episode of that season as a spoiler, like 3 hours after the show drops. Like I feel like as a society we consume so much content so quickly. You have to keep pace with everyone else to a degree in order to not get spoiled for yourself.
Are you saying there's FOMO then now? You're saying that you have to because there's FOMO?
I don't think it's FOMO. It's just like people are just spoil stuff, right? So
well, don't go on the places where people spoil stuff. Then.
No, but like prime example, when I was watching what was that? I think it was like The Walking Dead at university. I was sat in the library, I was doing work, and someone was just like chatting behind me. It was like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. It was so sad when Blah died, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like it literally like the episode just dropped like the day before.
Your problem with going to the library, see? Libraries are bad.
Yeah, so if I stay at home, no one can bother me. Okay.
Exactly. If you lock yourself away, don't go anywhere, don't open your phone.
Nothing gets spoiled. Okay.
Nothing gets spoiled. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'll follow that as an idea going forward then.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what I'm saying is like holistically as a group of people, we do consume content so quickly. Like a lot of people don't watch like full 30-minute videos anymore. They would rather just get the Coles notes. There's apps now that go.
Are you sure about all the things I send you are like 2 hours?
I quite like those though. But what I mean is like there's apps specifically now going like, I don't know, Ollie, do you like the personal MBA book? You're like, yeah, I love that book. And it's like, join our service now and we can make that book into 5 bullet points of all you need to know. Like, I don't know if people view time as more precious. They could be doing better stuff, but holistically, the way we consume media has completely changed into 5-second dances online. Like, look at the new TikTok trend, right? Which is, it's not new, but whatever. It's when, I think it's like someone's playing like Subway Surfers and there's like a video underneath of what to do. Like people, that's how badly we consume content, or we can't focus on one thing. It's ridiculous.
Okay. If anyone had that on screen, I would instantly turn it off.
Okay. Yeah. Some people do that. I'm just saying it's a common.
No, I know it happens. I know it's a common thing, but like if that is brain rot, it's a literal brain rot.
No, it's
a meme in itself to have that on screen.
Oh, have you not seen there was a university lecturer who made that for like teaching their kids how to do like notes and learning? I was like, this is a joke, because it was like, I don't know, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and it was like Subway Surfers, the guy doing it as they're doing like a biology lesson and going through notes. I was like, Jesus.
I think I know what you're talking about, and actually, there's a thing. It's an American uni who do, it's like, I think social media and viral marketing is the course or whatever it is, and the guy fakes, like they have to make stuff in the lectures, right? So often he will fake something like There was one where they like people came in to play badminton or something like that in the lecture. Okay. They said they booked the room. I don't know if you've seen that one. There was one recently where the lecture was like, you know, like the meme where you can leave if your teacher's 15 minutes late. So someone put a timer up 50 minutes and he comes in at like 14 minutes 55 or something like that, right? It's all fake because he's showing them how easy it is to make viral things, and all the videos are meant to look like these people are in just normal lectures for stuff. Yeah. So I'm not sure if the one you're talking about is that guy. I don't know if I don't.
So it wasn't that sort of video. It was just like in a course / website. You can go to the website and look it up, and it can like make it for you. And I was like, the fuck is this? But yeah. Speaking of viral videos and stuff like that, and we're jumping tangent. I was listening to Play Nice, which is the book on Blizzard Entertainment. Like it's like the rise, fall, and blah blah of Blizzard Entertainment. And I was laughing because I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then during the video, during the book, they were just like, oh yeah, these two guys staged Leroy Jenkins. And I was just like, I always was under the impression that it could be staged, but there was always a part of me that thought it was real. And it was just very sad to like see that some, like you said, some viral videos are purposely stage managed and kind of planned out just to get attention.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was obvious that Leroy Jenkins was fake.
Well, a part of me wanted it to be real.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But it's also like the baby of the eagle as well. There was a video that cropped up, I think like, I'm going to say like 15 years ago. There was a baby on a golf course and an eagle picked up the baby and flew away. That was also like fake. But I agree, like the viral video stuff is
That's got to be fake. Like, I mean, like,
no, but like that was the whole idea. The concept that you said was like it was a viral media marketing teacher, and he was like, if you guys can crack over 1 million views in a month, I will give you a passing grade for this class. And that was their first assignment. And basically, they staged a video of a guy playing golf. He puts his baby down, he hits the ball, an eagle comes out of nowhere, grabs the baby, and tries to fly off of it. It's just interesting.
No, I mean, yeah, that's what happens now. Everything is fake. Don't believe anything you see.
Yeah, not even this. This is just 2 AI voices just talking.
Okay, let's not reveal the secret.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. People got to still believe that we're real people.
Ollie, it's that time again. It's that time to stretch your creative brain, and I will put a word out, and we will try and develop a game together. You ready for it?
The listener who sent this in, I just want to let them know that this is my least favorite bit of the podcast. So we don't need to name any names, but I believe his name was Henry. So I just want to point out that he's created something which makes me basically work on this podcast. So I hope he's happy.
I think it's a good idea.
But I wasn't asking you. I was just telling him how much I get annoyed with this. Anyway, do you want to give me? Let's just see what this word is, because if it's a bad word, then it makes me hate it even more.
So the word is hike, which I think.
Where are you getting these words from? Like none of these.
There's a word generator, and I hit generate, and the word comes out.
Right, just for the sake of just so we can scientifically test this, do it again and see what other word comes out.
Right. Okay. Words generator.
Oh, you gone back to it? What do you mean? You're typing. What do you mean typing it in? I thought you
terms.
Open. Terms.
Terms. TERMS. Do we see generate another word?
No, we're going back to hiking. Terms. Like what? What is this?
I don't know. I didn't.
Do one more. Do one more. So like a third trial. We'll stick with hiking, but just do another one. Just so
give me a second. Give me a second.
It's the same website. Have you closed it down?
I've closed it down each time.
Stop closing down the website. We just right click and go reopen.
Right. So I'm going to give you 3 words back to back here.
Okay, and I pick the one I want to do.
No, we're doing hike. There's dare.
Right.
Manufacturer. Confidence.
Right. These are dreadful. We're going hike though. Great.
Hike.
Okay. So,
perfect. Okay. I've got the video in my head.
Okay, so it's a horror game. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And you effectively are on a hike.
Yep.
And during it, you encounter someone on your hike who's injured. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And effectively, you have to try and get them back to safety. All right. But there's you don't know how they were injured. Okay. Some sort of something or other. They're not really sure. It sounds supernatural kind of thing. You don't really believe them. But you have to try and survive to get out, basically.
I think your game needs a little bit of love, to be honest.
Well, I mean, it's an awful topic because I've basically cheated, because what I've done is I've just gone with I'll design it to be. No, I was talking more like the story element. I was talking about how I've designed it. So I've just basically gone hiking. Okay, to make it part of the story. Job done. Okay. At no point is there really a mechanic to do with hiking. It's just the premise of the game and how you got there. And I've basically gone on a different tangent to it. So I basically cheated this answer, which let's be honest, is Henry's fault for coming up with this in the first place. But,
I think there's a better game here, right?
You need to find a better word generator. But anyway, let's hear your game.
Here's the premise of it, right? You are a guy, girl, or a group of people who are climbing up a large mountain. The game idea and design principles are survival, exploration, and replayability. So the whole idea is you have 3 days to climb up this mountain and get back down. So there's a time, because that's what makes it fun. So you have like a time period, or you can make it. Okay, so you could even like score yourself for how quick or how slow you do it, right? You've got like hiking poles, you've got backpacks, all that sort of stuff. You go up the mountain, and as you're going up the mountain, you can explore it. You can look for shortcuts. You can look for like new ways to kind of climb yourself around. You can look for like rock climbing paths. You can look for ice climbing. And then basically each night you need to make sure you have enough food, enough energy to last you for the next day. You have to like snack. So instead of like a stamina bar replenishing over time, you have to like eat, drink, and all that sort of stuff. So it's like a survival sim, but it would be like 3D, third person climbing game. And you could like sort out your backpack, and the more food you eat, the more space you get in the backpack, and the lighter you are, so the easier it is to do the hiking. But if you bring like too much food at the start, you're going to be very, very slow. And it's like a team effort game of climbing up the mountain, climbing back down. And once you finish, you could then cash stuff in for finding lost relics or bits and bobs or like dead people who've previously climbed the mountain and failed. Use that money to reinvest into better kit and then try and reclimb it at a quicker speed. That's right. That's my concept for the game.
Who is playing this game?
I would play that. Put some lo-fi beats in there.
What the? Why is it? I don't think lo-fi beats are gonna save that game.
I mean, you could put lo-fi beats. You could put like some ambient music. But the idea would be like the whole idea of going on a hike is a journey. There's a start, there's a middle, there's an end, and there's exploration. And I think a part of that would be really fun. And it'd be nice because you could like set up camp. Someone could be like, "Oh, we'll get the firewood," or "I'll go cook food." So that way you're like saving stamina. You're working together, and then when you go hiking, you can redistribute the kit amongst the entire team, and then you can go back and climb up the mountain again. I think the replayability value would be really cool because you could try and do a different path each time you climb up that mountain. So initially you could just do like a 45-degree walk. Then one of you might go, actually, there's a rock facade on the south facing thing that I saw on this one. So let's redo it and then try and do rock climbing. And then that changes the kit you need to bring and changes like your approach to the mountain each and every single different time. And maybe
is it procedurally generated, this mountain?
It could be. It could also be set. Like, it depends how you want to do it. I think the idea would be you'd have to uncover the secrets of the mountain each time you try and climb it. And there'll be small changes and like things would happen. So, like I said, we would be climbing down the mountain. You and I, Ollie, would find where we previously died because we didn't bring enough food. And then we could pick up the food there, or go bring our bodies back and get like points to reinvest in ourselves as these characters. But if you die, you lose your stuff, you have to reset, and you get like a new character who might have like specializations in cooking, or heavier carry weight, or more nimble so they can be better at climbing. Like that sort of stuff could be really fun.
I see. Yeah.
That's my pitch. I would call it the long hike or something like that. Or
unfortunately, that game already exists, I'm pretty sure.
What, the long hike?
Well, I know. It might be called the short hike.
I thought it was like I thought it was the long dark hike. The short hike.
No, the short hike. Have you not heard of the short hike before?
No.
Oh, it's like a guy did a GDC talk on it. Very popular indie game on Steam.
It looks very cozy.
It is cozy. But yeah, he did a talk. It's a very popular talk on GDC, and then became like a hit game because of it, basically.
Okay. Well, that'd be my pitch. It'd basically be like procedurally generated. Every time you do a hike and you die, you get a new character with new sets of skills and abilities. And then the more times you do it, you can upgrade your character and change like negatives into like better factors. So you could have a character who's like stronger, but he requires more food. So that's the balance you have to do. Or you have a character who's lighter, who doesn't like eating as much, so you're always low in energy, but you almost like do it as sprints versus other stuff. So yeah, that's my concept.
I see. Interesting. Well, I don't like the topic, so I mean, this one. These aren't not like. Don't worry, we'll come. I'm sure there'll be a good word at some point.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, you can always pick the word for next time.
I mean, I don't want to pick the word. You just need to find a new word generator, okay?
Maybe that's what you can make. You can make a word generator for the podcast.
I mean, then I'll just be generating all the words ahead of time.
True. Okay.
Okay, here's an idea. Okay, if you have an idea, if you have a word which you want us to come up with
a game for,
okay, then you can email in at You can say the email this time because I do it all the time.
Podcasts@dungeoneers.tv.
Great, and we'll do it. Yeah. And if it's bad, I will shout. I will call that person out that they came up with a bad one, just to say. So
and if it's good, it'll be our game, not your game, but our game.
But if it's good, we'll actually do the segment on it.
Okay. Is that how it's going to work?
If no one comes up with a good idea, then we're going to have to return back to this ridiculous word generator you're using.
Okay, fair enough.
I think for everyone's mental health, someone should just submit in a better idea.
Okay.
Maybe Henry should. I'm going to call him out now. He has to. I'm expecting one to be submitted by the time we record the next podcast.
I quite like Ollie. Much like Duolingo, we've come to the end of our natural time here on the podcast. And much like Duolingo, we're not sure when we'll return, but lots of people will make memes about us and talk about how great we are conceptually. But realistically, when you think about it, you're just making sure you have a streak and just spend your time listening to a bird trying to tell you different languages, you know?
This is the I don't know what this outro is. This is weird.
I try and do something different every single outro, Ollie.
I mean, this is definitely different.
Give it like a month or two, and I'll do an outro in Japanese just for fun. But as everyone always knows, it's always good to have a different ending, so that way you keep people on their toes. But thank you very much for listening to this episode of There Are No Good Games. And if you're interested, we also have a Discord now. Link to the Discord will be in the description below. You've been joined by your hosts, myself and Ollie, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time.
Tschüss. That's bye in German.